How would AI robots change the world? Wouldn't we be doomed to have a dictator in every country with control of these weapons, which could easily repress any opposition? Well, as a fun exercise, I decided to ask our new AI overlords, so I can then judge just how much trouble we are already in. What do you think, Claude? AI war robots could fundamentally shift the balance of power. Historically, military strength required large numbers of soldiers people with families, values, and limits. Okay, back to my normal human voice. A government controlling AI combat systems could suppress dissent without relying on human soldiers who might refuse orders. The risk of authoritarian consolidation is real. Whoever controls the robots controls the state. But it's not inevitable. International treaties, decentralized oversight, and democratic safeguards could limit misuse, just as they've constrained nuclear weapons. The question isn't whether the technology arrives, it's whether our institutions evolve fast enough to contain it. Okay, that last paragraph is pure platitudes with no actual meaning. The second to last paragraph magically assumes that international laws, toothless pieces of paper, will somehow solve the problem. The nod to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is also not very good. The NPT works because countries offer tangible concessions to would-be proliferators. That is what gets compliance, not some nebulous social norm against nuclear weapons, and certainly not a signature on a piece of paper. And I do not foresee countries offering the same types of concessions to stop autocrats from acquiring AI war robots aimed at repressing their own citizens. That might not be a great outcome for a foreign country, but it does not impose the same level of externalities on others that nuclear weapons do. The first part is much better. I am less concerned about AI robots fundamentally altering the prevalence of war, and much more focused on preparing myself for how new technology alters the balance of power between actors in conflict. If I may bleed this question into my more comfortable sphere of international conflict, technological evolution is always something that is the subject of concern. When I was an up-and-coming researcher, the new tech was fancy remote-piloted drones, which allowed American airmen to fly them from the States and still make it home in time for dinner. In the last few years, it has been even cheaper one-way drones, meant to travel in swarms. Next, it will be more generalized AI machines fighting AI machines. But these technologies do not fundamentally change the underlying framework of what war is. It is a costly process that ultimately produces some kind of outcome. All we are doing is changing the source of that outcome. Heck, that is what winter has been like throughout the Russia-Ukraine war. The only difference is that the selection process for a winner is less about military strategy and more about boring things like who can provide winter clothing. 100 years ago, the selection process was also less about military strategy and more about ridiculous things like feeding your troops and avoiding having them all die to the flu. So AI killer robots will have a tendency to shift what the balance of power looks like. They may also make the war cheaper for their producers. Then again, they might also make the war more expensive for those still living behind the times. For me, that just changes the values of variables like P and C inside of a model. But we always solve models with general parameters rather than specific values, so it does not directly change my day-to-day life. In contrast, these factors matter much more for the folks actually doing the negotiations and war planning, though I am less sure about how much they matter when both states possess the technology. War, and especially attritional war, is about imposing costs on the other side until it submits. If the per-unit cost of war goes down, then you end up producing more until you pass the hypothetical threshold of unbearability. All the new technology does is cause you to use less energy on each wheel, only to spin more wheels and end up in the same place. So I do not envy people like those on the front lines in Ukraine, or the folks at Allied Command Transformation, who have to spend day after day figuring out these new systems, lest they fall behind their opponents. I also do not envy the average citizen living in a repressive dictatorship, who never really has the opportunity to counter their government's use of killer AI robots. They will get absolutely smoked in coercive negotiations as a result. But I also do not think that the fundamentals of war as a political act are about to go away. By the way, I also asked ChatGPT to answer this one, and it gave off vibes like, I'm an undergrad who does not care very much about this class, despite costing me slightly more credits. Perplexity was similar, but it cost 4 times as much. At least all of the citations it gave me led to real URLs. Anyway, that is it for today's Geopolitics Helpline. Check out all of them we've done so far with this playlist. And if you enjoyed today's video, then please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.